Hey, listeners. Before we get into today's episode, if you enjoyed this podcast and would like to support us by becoming a paid subscriber, you can do that by clicking on a locked episode and following the instructions, or you can click on a link in the description. We are creating special content and are planning to add more and more special perks for paid subscribers, but either way, we appreciate you just listening to our podcast and supporting us in that way. Thank you so much, and let's get into today's episode.
Hey, welcome to Widowed Too Soon. This is, Michelle Ebersole, actually, but Michelle Bader Ebersole is kind of what I'm going to go by on social media.
Better soul.
Bader Soul. I like that. And I'm sitting here with my friend and co-host, Mark Massaro. How's it going, Mark?
Good. We are back. You are back.
Backstreet.
I'm sorry,
back.
poor
All
listeners.
Right. Right. Good. That was a good one.
Yeah, wait. Poor listeners have just had to deal with me.
I got it.
You got
Widowed Too Soon. Back. All right. Okay, it didn't work. You know what I'm saying.
I know what you're saying.
Anyways, how is it going?
It's good. How are you? Well, more importantly, how are you?
I'm so good. My wedding was like a dream, like better than anything I've ever imagined. Not even lying. Okay. Can I tell you a little bit about it?
Yeah, but I have a very important question first.
Okay.
No, everybody wants to know this.
Okay.
Did anybody get their eyes poked out by paper airplanes?
They did not. No.
Okay. Good.
It didn't even hit me. I mean, in the video, you can see I think they kind of hit us. I don't remember it. It was so beautiful. Like,
yes.
I wasn't sure how that would turn out, and it was amazing, and everybody had fun making them. So let me back it on up.
Yeah. So, I just needed to know that.
Yes. In Washington in March, it's usually rainy. I had hopes that it'd be warm, but it was pretty rainy. Actually, the few days before, we're starting to get a little nicer. The day of our wedding, it was the hottest day of the whole year, which is 70 degrees. That's
the hottest day of the year
so far in 2023.
Oh, so far. I'm like,
so
what?
far. No. And it was beautiful. So Joel and I went on a run. We decided we didn't believe in that whole superstition. We can't see each other till the wedding. We're like, let's start the morning with a run. So we got up and we went running, and it was just like such a surreal day. I'm like, this is our wedding day. This is our wedding day. This is crazy. And the weather was so amazing. And it was like not a cloud in the sky. And like everybody was out, and I got to take what I really wanted was outdoor pictures. And we got some at a gazebo that are so gorgeous outside the Air Museum, like all over by the plane. Like it was so amazing. And pretty much everything went okay. Went good. Like people told me, prepare for 3 things to go wrong. Like literally nothing. Like I kind of kept waiting.
That's awesome.
And the ceremony was beautiful. And I read my piece that I read on here about grief and joy, and lots of people cried, and how we can have both of them. And a lot of people told me that was really meaningful for them. And so many people have told me 2 things about this wedding. It was magical. That's the word I get over and over. And that it was like the most redemptive story. And it was like, they felt so much joy. Like one of my bridesmaids said, next to my wedding, that was the most meaningful and beautiful wedding I've ever been to.
That's really cool.
Like it was just, because there's so many people who followed my journey, while Luke was sick, after he passed away, like when he passed away, after he passed away, they saw my story of meeting Joel again. And so I feel like a lot of people felt like they were part of this. And, actually when Luke was sick, I was on a run. I think I've said the story before, and I feel like God said, you're going to go through something and I want you to do it publicly. And I now believe that this all is part of it. That in the beginning, it was to just share what's going on with Luke and how God's getting us through. But I believe it's even for now. Like I've been a very public person since Luke's been sick up until now. And I think it's for people to see like how God can heal, and like how he's truly turned my mourning into dancing. I mean, real dancing. We had line dancing. It was amazing. At one time, there's like over 50 people on the dance floor dancing, like kids, adults. A lot of my students were there. Them and their parents were dancing. My nieces, nephews, like all of these people out there together. Me and a lot of my bridesmaids changed into cowboy boots. And so it was like, there's these pictures and stuff of me and my dress hiked up with my cowboy boots, and we had so much fun. And then just like the whole ceremony was just so beautiful. And it was my best friend's husband, Brian, who was the officiant, which was really cool. I've known him over 20 years, and having him part of it was really special.
So since you were 9?
Yes, exactly. Since I was 9-ish. And having Joel's dad did part of the ceremony, and it was just so beautiful. And Haley sang, she sang while we did communion, and it was just amazing. And she sang during our first dance, and like, so like everything was gorgeous. So I wanted to have like the hangar door open and it was warm enough, but everyone said, we can't see you because the sun would be in their eyes. So it was closed during the ceremony, but during the reception, they opened it up, and the air in the evening was just perfect. Like kids were running inside, outside, people were running around the plane, around the building. Like so many kids were having such a good time. And it was just like a blur, like just a complete, like, whoa. And my biggest regret is that I didn't say hi to everybody. We had about 185 RSVP and about 230 came. So it was like, whoa. I
If
didn't
that's
even,
your biggest regret, that's pretty awesome.
right? It was just that I didn't get to.
Nobody expects you to go around and say hi
I
to
know, but I just
230
felt
people.
bad. I didn't get to say hi to everybody. And there was just people from like my childhood. There were all kinds of people who have really followed my story. There was this couple there who I'd never met in person, but they were in my parents' Bible study. They used to send money to Luke and I. They sent our family to Great Wolf Lodge a few times, like when we really couldn't afford anything. And they've been along my journey, and to meet them in person finally. And they've been like, we've been praying for you so much. And to read their card they gave, it was all about how amazing I am. And then to Joel, it was like, I think you know the jewel you have in Michelle. And like, it was just sweet. Like someone I'd never even met. There were several people like that had followed my journey through other people. And it was just,
that's so awesome.
Yeah, it was a huge celebration. It just felt like it was just a big party. Like, the ceremony was just beautiful. And then we went into celebrating. Like the first thing we did when we came out, they also I had two wedding dresses, which was fun. I had the nice one, then I had the party dress. I came back out in the party dress, like with all the ruffles, like ready to party and have fun. And I didn't eat, like I got stuff on my plate, but I talked to people constantly, and just all the things. It was so fun. And then Haley did a beautiful toast. I really choked up when she said, I was the biggest daddy's girl ever, and I couldn't have made it through that time without my mom. And my mom's the strongest person ever. She's like, I know people say that, about their moms, but she really is, and just super
That's
sweet.
awesome.
And it was all about like, she's excited about this family that we're creating. And then my best friend Deborah did a toast. It wasn't on that video, but it's on the longer video. She did a really sweet toast. And then Joel's son Grady did an amazing toast that was like funny and sweet. And it was just amazing. And then just having the two families together, getting to know his parents and brothers and sisters and nieces and nephews and all of this stuff was just, I can't even put it all into words. Like it felt like a dream, and it was like, it's over. Like it was crazy. And then it was like, time to go. Oh, and we had a photo booth going on. I think my niece took 26 pictures because I said, it's unlimited. Go as many times as you want. And so it's supposed to be our guest book, but it ended up mostly kids, the same kids over and over in the guest book, but it's cute. It was some really cute pictures. Like my students all did a lot of pictures, and then it was fun when it was time to go. We had like a tunnel of people on each side, and they threw paper airplanes at us as we ran out to the song Leave It on a Jet Plane. And we had the plane out there, and up until this moment, I did not know if we were flying or not. Okay. He had told me, okay, well, the weather's good, but he still doesn't know if he's going to be too tired or not. So we get in the plane, we're like driving, and he's like driving. I'm like, so are we going to fly or not? He's like, I'm feeling okay about it. I go, okay or good? He's like, good. I'm like, because I don't want to go fly and like crash in front of everybody. He's like, no, I feel good. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, that might be bad.
Yeah. And then we just like flew up. Everybody watched us. Even our videographer stayed and did a little video. And we just flew up and just did like a little loop. I don't know. It wasn't very long. And then we landed like on the other side, and we could still see everybody in the building, like cleaning up while we were over at the airport and where his truck was. And we got to leave from there. Like we had to go. We probably looked so funny. I'm in my wedding dress helping him like push the plane in and like into the hangar and all that. But it was just like a dream, like a redemptive dream. Like this is what God told me over 2 years ago at the Grieve retreat, close to 3 years ago, right after Luke died, that like, I'm going to restore and redeem everything you've lost and the joy of your youth, down to the weather that we got. That's like what I love is warm weather. And I got the pictures I wanted, and it was just absolutely, and it was just such a, I don't know, amazing, like something I could have never dreamed of. And I believe it was a testimony to God's faithfulness and how he redeems things, and not just in my life, but also in Joel's and the hard things that he's been through. and, his family. And so it was.
And also the things that you don't even know that it did, like the people who saw it and things like that,
Yeah. And what was
I'll talk about
amazing,
that later, but yeah.
what was amazing is that my in-laws, meaning Luke's parents, were there, like my mother-in-law, so Luke's mom, Luke's sister, and many of his nieces and nephews, and his brother-in-law, like they came and supported us and just were so sweet and kind to be there. And I know it was a hard day for them, like how weird for them to see me marry someone else, but yet they were able to put their own sadness aside to be there for me and my kids. And
that's
so
awesome.
I greatly appreciated that. And I know that's not always the case when people get remarried. So I feel very blessed to have in-laws that do that. And like, I have 2 sets of in-laws now. And that's so crazy because I was saying something about mother-in-law and they're like, oh, Joel's mom. I'm like, no, my other mother-in-law that I already have. Like I have 2 mother-in-laws. Like it's crazy.
That's awesome.
But it's
so, I just wanted to say, so there were 2 things. Your wedding made me feel a lot of things. The first one, and I shared this on Facebook with you, but just knowing what you've been through and watching this entire journey, it just gave me this overwhelming sense of like, I don't know how else to describe it except like, oh, like you made it, like you've made it, and it gave me this really cool feeling, like just so happy for you and for Joel and just in this next season of life and just, I don't know, being your friend through all of the craziness. And seeing the product of God's grace and mercy was just so awesome. And it just gave me these overwhelming feelings of gratitude for how good our Father is in heaven. And like, why couldn't he give you beautiful weather for your wedding? Of course he can, and that's a really powerful thing if you think about it, like that maybe he gave state of Washington beautiful weather just for you on that day. And that's like, for you and Joel, obviously, but you know what I mean? I just think that's really cool. The other thing that your wedding made me feel was a huge sense of gratitude and gratefulness that I wasn't there in the dance party.
I would have made you like, get out here.
That's you, not me. I'm watching from afar. I'm not a dancer. But I was just like, oh, that looks like such a beautiful and fun one. No, I know. I'm just making a joke. But no, it was such a beautiful, beautiful wedding. And Tina and I both wish we could have been there and supported you guys and been able to see you guys in person or whatever. And but it was awesome. It was so cool, like seeing all the pictures and then seeing all the pictures from your honeymoon. I was super jealous.
Oh, it was amazing.
I'm just kidding. No, I was really happy for you. It was just like such beautiful pictures.
This is like how I didn't even know people listen to the podcast that don't listen to it. We're at the rehearsal dinner and Joel's aunt goes, oh, is Mark your co-host going to be here? I had no idea his aunt even listened to the podcast. I was like, oh no, he was really far away. He couldn't make it. She's like,
oh, that's so cool. Just like, how sweet.
He even knew your name. Like,
that's super cool.
I think she listens to it because she married a widower. And so she wanted, I think, to help her understand things more. So it was just cool. Sure. Like this is the first time I'd met her and she asked if you were going to be at the wedding. So I thought it was cool.
That's really cool.
I know. Right. What else was I going to say? Okay.
I know.
Right. So here's an interesting fact about Kauai. There are chickens everywhere, literally everywhere. And they crow night and day. Did you know that? Like,
I did not
know
random
that. Fact. Okay. I think they said 82, like all these chickens got loose and they just let them go. And now they've overtaken the island. So fun little fact.
Did you know why the chicken crossed the road?
To get to the other side. Like literally said that because there were chickens crossing the road. Okay. Is that a real joke?
Are you ready?
Yeah.
It's because.
Wow, that is the cheesiest of the cheese. That was a good one.
Oh, my kids told me that joke.
Okay,
that was great.
That makes sense. But anyways, Kauai
was
was stunningly beautiful. We snorkeled, we saw dolphins and whales, we went to a luau, we went on a bike ride, like right on the ocean. And Joel loved it. He said everything reminded him of his childhood, that the vegetation was so cool, just like Brazil. And like one day I was like, so what was your favorite thing today? He's like, the sugar cane. And I'm like, what? He had this pure sugar drink made from sugar cane. He's like, it's what I used to have
Yes.
in my childhood. I'm like, that's gross. And
I've
then
seen that in videos before
he
where they
got the sugar
squeeze the
cane
sugar cane.
and he like chewed on it, and now he's like, try it. And I'm like, what? That's gross. Like, it didn't taste good, but he loved it. Every plant, he'd be like, we had that one growing up and we had that one. And like, so it just, he loved it. Like, it was absolutely wonderful. And it was just like, go, go, go. Like, I literally thought I would have gained 10 pounds because I ate so bad because I'd been eating so good for so long. But anyways, we only gained like 3 pounds each, which I was happy about because we were never just like sitting around. Like,
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
like, let's snorkel, let's do this, let's do this. So I love that he's like my adventure partner. Like, it was always like, okay, what are we gonna do today? Let's go to this part of that. Let's do this. Let's do this. And we were like game for anything. And it was so fun. And that's part of what I'm loving. Like, my whole marriage, Luke couldn't help it, but he was not active except for the first few months. And so to have someone who is physically active and able to do all of these things that I've never experienced is absolutely amazing. Like, being married to my best friend who can do all these things with me. Instead, like, it was hard with Luke because he couldn't do all of them. So I would still go out and do fun things, but I would miss having him with me. And so now to have a partner who can do things is amazing. Now
That's awesome.
Here's the other side of it. My kids are doing well, but my oldest, I called him when I got home, and he's 18, almost 19. And he just said, Mom, that was really hard for me. Watching you get married was really hard. And I'm like, I know, I'm sorry. I'm like, my grief is mostly for you now because no one will ever replace your dad, but I do have a new husband. So that role is filled in my life. You're never going to have a new dad. And so my grief is more for you because that position won't be filled. We're able to like really talk through that. And but he's like, I'm so happy for you, but that was really hard.
Yeah, so, I bet. And it's not like it's not like getting the position of husband filled again takes away what you lost either.
Exactly. But I have that person in my life that does fill the hole of not having someone. Like, it's a whole new world. Like, having somebody physically here. Like, I think Joel's out helping Haley drive right now. She has to do a drive tomorrow. So he's out helping her. Like, he's always here helping. Like, he picked up Peyton from the mall with his friends the other day. He did this, like, having someone physically here and, to just companionship. And we watched a movie last night, just having someone here, like, does fill that role of having a companion all the time.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's so awesome. And actually, I wanted to go back. You said about the not seeing your husband or seeing each other on your wedding day. Mm-hmm. You remember you mentioned that?
Yeah.
I thought it was that you're not supposed to see your bride in her dress before the wedding. Is it you're not supposed to see him the whole day?
I don't know, but we didn't do that. We actually saw each other before the wedding because we wanted pictures done. We had like a whole moment and stuff, but I don't know which one it is. If you're not supposed to see them at all on the wedding day or just in their wedding dress. But we decided.
Yeah, I don't understand. I mean, that's just a superstition
anyways. So we decided to see each other that morning. And
I was just curious, that thing you talked about 20 minutes ago. And I'm just now bringing up.
No.
I was like, wait, is that what it is? But anyways, so that's super cool.
It was beautiful and wonderful. And I'm so happy. Honestly, I had a hard day the day we came home. Well, we did a red eye flight, which I hate red eyes because I didn't really sleep. And then it was that letdown after something big. And like everyone in the world, like everybody's here, like all of my best friends, my family, and then they're gone. And we came back to rainy weather and I hadn't slept. And it was just like, I had this weird feeling, but I'm over it now. It's just like one day. And, it reminded me, but much different after Luke's celebration of life, like that feeling, but way worse then. That feeling of like something I had looked forward to, all these people that I loved being in one place, and then boom, but that was way harder. Boom, like they're all gone and you're like left alone. But now it was different. It was like everyone's gone, but I have a husband, like, and it's so fun.
Yeah, well, it's like this one event is on your horizon for so long.
Yes.
And then it's over.
Yeah, so it's kind of a strange feeling. I remember this my first.
But that's the cool thing. The cool thing is that you got, like you said, you now have a companion and you now have a husband again, and you're not alone anymore. You've been alone for 3 years, and in the sense, in regards to like, obviously you've had Joel for how long you guys been together? Like a year and a half or something?
Almost a year and a half. And April 19th will be a year and a half. Yeah.
Are you counting?
Yeah.
But so you've been alone. And so you also get to come back to this new life, which is cool too. But yeah, I mean, who would not feel that way going coming back from Hawaii,
Yeah.
I think that's just going to be part of it anyways. I remember Lacey and I went to Antigua for our honeymoon, and it was just like the most amazing vacation ever. Everything was all inclusive, and we were on this white sand beach, and we'd go
Nice.
for walks on the beach at 10 p.m. and just roll up our pants and walk out into the ocean that was still like 80 degrees and
Nice.
no waves at all. We'd go out 50 yards and we'd still only be knee deep. And I mean, just
Wow.
absolutely paradise. And then, yeah, we had to come back home.
Yeah.
So
I think it's,
that's always the
nature.
tough part of, right? When you go to
Yes.
like paradise or whatever.
Yes.
Actually, and we have a listener in Antigua, so that's pretty cool.
Yay. Okay, enough
Yeah.
about me. It's been like 20 minutes about me.
I
Let's
was just
talk
talking
about
about my
you.
honeymoon. That was about
Okay.
me.
Okay, that's true. But how are you? What have you been up to? I know you've done a few updates because I've been listening to your episodes, which were awesome. But
Thank you.
what's since your last update or anything you want
Well,
to
let's
share?
see. I don't know how I'm going to top what you said. Let's see.
Did you fly away in a plane?
This is going to sound so boring in comparison, but I've been working so hard at real estate school.
That is good.
I have a lot of hours invested, and I'm getting further and further in the course. I'm at like 64% completion, which is
Nice.
great.
That's good.
At the time of recording, I'm hoping to be like 75% when this comes out. And then that's the national, and then I got to do the state. And so my goal is to be studied up and ready to take the test by the end of April.
Nice.
That's a ambitious goal.
Yeah.
But even if I set that goal for April and it ends up being middle of May, well, then I still like pushed myself to get, as far as I could. So that's been going on. I have a bird nesting in my backyard, actually, two of them in different locations. And last year we had a bird. They're trying to like nest on this little post up under a covering I have. And poor thing, last year the nest fell down in the wind, and that the baby bird didn't make it. And so this year I screwed a Tupperware up there, and now the bird has made this nest inside of the Tupperware.
Good idea.
And looks all happy to be in there and everything.
Yeah.
So it's cool. We spy on it out the window, and we'll see it's so cute. There's like a little female bird obviously in the nest, and then the little male bird comes and like brings her things. It's like really cute to watch. He'll like bring a little twig. He's like, "Hey, what's up? Hey, here's a twig."
Hey
for
girl.
the nest,
Hey girl. Hey.
Hey, I brought you a twig, girl. So so that's been cool. And gosh, what honestly, like I've been so focused on just getting school. So not a lot else. I've had some good conversations with my mother-in-law and different things like that. I don't really have an update on my mom. I heard some things about her physical health that don't sound very good. But I don't have anything to report on that. And my kids and I went for a walk today, and then went to the park, and it was like an absolutely perfect day. It was so beautiful. It was like 68 degrees out, just a slight breeze. Like there's just something about being out in nature when it's just a beautiful day. We were like, we have this greenway. We go to this like green belt, and this greenway goes for like miles and miles and miles through the city. And there's just a creek like following you the whole way, and it's just so beautiful. There's like big cranes and ducks and all kinds of stuff. I'm just trying to make it sound cooler than it is, because I didn't just come back from Hawaii. But
it's cool.
It was very beautiful. And Tina is coming for a visit, which I'm super excited about. We're gonna do some Easter stuff for the kids. She's gonna help me not flop on Easter this year with my dishes. So I think last year I was even on this podcast. You're like, "So did you get your kids an Easter mask?" I'm like, "No, I suck. I totally forgot." Like, so
she'll help you.
Anyways, so yeah,
that's fun.
She's
like, how often do you guys get to see each other? It seems like every few weeks or so.
We try to see each other at least once a month. Sometimes it's every 3 weeks, sometimes it's every 5 weeks. But it's cool because we obviously neither one of us would be here if we didn't want to get married, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so we have kind of an idea in our mind of when that could happen. But it's not time yet, right? Yeah. And so having these things to look forward to once a month really helps, like, not make it feel like it's an eternity away,
Yes.
if that makes sense.
Oh, I know. We did the month thing. I get it.
Because I'm really excited to have her as my wife someday, and to, enjoy just doing husband and wife things again, and not just be like, lonely widower. You know how we all do, right? I know everybody listening understands what I'm talking about. And it's like, maybe you might not want to get remarried again, but you likely understand what I'm saying, that like you just miss marriage. Like aside from obviously missing your spouse, but there's also, it feels like this separate, I miss being married, I miss having a spouse. I miss having a partner in life, So anyways, that's all I can think of at the moment that's up with me.
Did you notice in Haley's speech, she said something about, I'm glad she won't be a cat lady?
Yes, that was great.
Because that was her biggest fear. She'd be an old cat lady.
I remember you told me that when we first met. You're like, I'm just afraid I'm going to be like an old cat lady with like 10 cats.
But I don't even have one cat. Like, I'm not a cat person, but it's just like,
but you know what? If you didn't meet Joel, you might be a cat lady.
I know. I might have turned into a cat lady, which is fine if you love cats and you live alone with your cat.
Honestly, I think cats are awesome. I don't have one.
I was like, you don't even have one, do you?
No, I don't have a cat, but the reason I don't have a cat is I think certain cats are really cool. I like all animals, but like certain cats are cool, but some cats are just like jerks. Have you ever seen all those videos where it's like a veteran comes home from overseas, and then it's like they see their dog for the first time, and the dog like goes crazy.
Yeah.
They haven't seen their owner in like a year or whatever, and then he comes home and blah, blah, blah. So it was this video, and it's all a cat after seeing her owner after he's been deployed for 2 years. And it's like all the suspenseful music is playing, and it shows the cat, and the cat like perks up when he hears the front door open. And then the owner walks in, he's like, hey buddy, I'm home. And the cat just like looks away and just starts licking its paw. Like it doesn't even care.
They're too
I'm like, that's so how cats are. But anyways, so cats are cool.
Yes.
And that was today's episode, right? Cats are cool.
Yeah. Oh, one other side note. I'm going to put the video that we're talking about. We have this like 5-minute highlight reel that our videographer made. I'm going to put a link to it. So if they want to see what we're talking about, they can see it. But let's go ahead and, did you have anything else to say, or can we get into the episode?
No, did I not prompt you with that's all I have to say about that? Sorry, okay, I know you need that till I can move on.
Yes. Okay. So today's episode is another grief myth. You have to grieve alone, or you need to grieve alone. So again, we talked about this before, that we're talking about these grief myths from this book, the Grief Recovery Handbook, which is a program that I'm doing. And this grief myth comes from childhood. So I read another book, When Children Grieve, that talks more about it, and how like this little boy, like somebody died and he wanted to go see his aunt, and his aunt was crying. They're like, no, let her grieve alone. Let her cry alone. Like people need to go by themselves. And if you need to cry, go be by yourself. And this whole myth that we need to be alone to grieve. Now, this isn't a big one that I ever like partaken in that or took place. I didn't
partooketh.
I didn't really grieve alone, but I know that this is more something that you did. And it's things that a lot of people feel like they have to grieve alone. So what are some of your thoughts on this myth?
Oh, well, I do know that it's wrong. I had this overwhelming feeling, and I've mentioned this before, but that like I didn't want to bother anybody with my grief. I didn't want to. I always had this impression of what it looked like in my head of like, hey, like I call somebody, hey, what's up, man? Hey, I know you're totally having a normal day, but can I bring you down? Is that cool? Can I talk to you for a while and bring you down to my level? And that's just how I viewed it. I viewed it as I was being inconsiderate of other people by, calling them. And like, it's kind of like I felt like they'd be like, yeah, dude, I know you're sad. You just need to go through it. That's what I thought everybody would feel towards me. And, it wasn't until way later on that I found out that there were a lot of people that wanted me to be more open with them and wanted me to share what I was going through. And so, yeah, I mean, that's my starting point, if you will, is that I just felt that it was the appropriate thing to do to grieve alone.
Right.
Because I did reach out to somebody, and it wasn't received in a very good way by that person.
Mm-hmm.
And he gave me the impression that that it was annoying to listen to my, me talking about, I don't know. And that just shut me down to talking. I'm like, nobody wants to hear this garbage. Everybody's going about their day, their kids at baseball practice, their wife made, a beautiful dinner, and they're going over to their parents for dinner later and all these things. And then all of a sudden it's I call crying, hey, I'm having a really hard time. And it's I just picture him sighing and going, oh gosh, why did I answer this call? That's what I pictured. And so I just had this belief that I was supposed to grieve alone, and that was the appropriate thing to do, to not bother anybody. So what do you have to say? What do you see in that book?
Going back to what you just said, that it would be a bother, but think of it in reality. I had this happen yesterday. A friend, she knows I'm high on life, everything's great. She didn't want to bother me with her stuff. I'm like, no, because I want to know I care about you. And that's what people think when we would call it, So that's a false thing in our head to think, no, I don't want to bring them down. And she's like, well, I don't share anything. I don't want to bring people. I'm like, no, I want to know I care about you. And so there's so many people like that. But this book has such a great example. I'll just read it too. When infants are in discomfort of any kind, what is the very first thing they do? They cry out for help. They do not keep a stiff upper lip. They communicate at the top of their lungs that they are in need of some assistance. Loving parents respond to the call for help and try to deliver it. But built into the parents' response is the idea that the infant is indeed not alone. Imagine then those same children, once they reach age 5 or 6, being told, if you're going to cry, go to your room. In other words, grieve alone. Or stronger comments such as, knock off that crying, or I'll give you reason to cry, something to cry about. You can understand what this might do to a children's sense of trust, to be told when they are having a normal and natural emotional reaction to a life event that it is not okay to have that feeling. Don't feel bad. And if you insist on having that feeling, by gosh, we don't want to see you. Go to your room and grieve alone. That was just such a good illustration. We're born and it's okay. We're not going to cry alone. But as we get older, we're told no, don't cry. Especially, I feel boys are told that a lot. Boys don't cry, which is the worst thing you can do. What we feel, we heal. I even said that in the thing I read at my wedding. It's so big. We have to feel our feelings, and we don't want to do it alone. I believe it's the enemy's tactic to get us alone, so we can get in these really bad places, emotionally, mentally, physically. But God created community. And so we are to be in community and be around, and there's a season for everything. And so while you might be in a season of you need people, other people are in a season where they want to help you. And so we really shouldn't grieve alone. But you can see how as in society, we're taught that. In this book, it really went more into kids and how we teach that, not even meaning to do that. Oh, go cry by yourself or whatever. But really, we are supposed to be grieving with others. Guys, I want to share something with you that I'm really, really excited about. I've mentioned it a few times, but I am now a grief recovery specialist. And what that means is I help people actually recover from grief. You don't have to stay where you're at. I take people through one-on-one and groups, and we really go through steps to identify first what's holding you back. Did you know grief is like having a bunch of rocks in your backpack? So we've got to unpack those, and I give you step-by-step ways to actually move forward. So if you want to learn more about this, there's a link in the show notes that you can book a call with me. I do one-on-ones, I do groups. I would love to speak with you about how this could work for you. Thanks.
Well, yeah, and it's the feelings are obviously real.
Yeah.
And if you suppress them, what happens to them? They don't go away.
Right.
You just bury them, and they come out somewhere else. They come out in your, let's say you're, a grieving parent. Let's say someone's in my situation, where they're, raising kids alone, little kids, and they have these grief moments or whatever, and they just suppress them and close them in. And they think oh, I'm fine because I'm not crying anymore. Right. I'm fine. I got past it. But then their kid asks them for a sandwich, and they're like, oh yeah, fine. like, or whatever, you know what I mean? It comes out in frustration or anger,
Right.
or it'll come out somewhere else. It doesn't go away, and it can give you an unhealthy mindset and an outlook on life, and it can make you just be bitter at people for no reason. It can make you drive around and all of a sudden you're mad at the guy for cutting you off or whatever, and that's not really what you're mad at.
Right.
You've suppressed a lot of feelings and held them in, and so you're ready to snap about anything. And so yeah, it is very important to, feel our feelings and,
Yeah.
process them and not shut them in or whatever. But anyways,
Yeah. Something else the book says is we don't isolate by nature. We isolate by training, by education, and by socialization. We isolate because we are taught that we laugh together, but we cry alone. I was like, whoa, that's true. In society, it's like, how many times this happened yesterday with a friend, do people say, I'm sorry for crying, or I don't want to cry. I'm like, no, it's good for you. Like, it's so good to cry and to get out your emotions, but we're taught it's bad. But crying is actually good for you physically too. Like, it's a good thing to get your tears out.
Well, do you remember that study I told you?
I was going to say, I remember you saying something about it. Can you review? It's been a long
time. So these people did this study on tears, and so they had people chopping an onion and collected the tears that came out of their eyes and put them under a microscope, and then they had them watch a sad movie, and they collected those tears and they put them under a microscope. The tears from cutting the onion were just saline. They were just water, salt and water, you know. But the tears that came out when they cried in the movie were filled with like toxins.
Wow.
And so it was like your body excretes toxins from your body through crying. And like, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of reality to that, there is probably some chemical or something in your body that gets created from, grief, I would imagine, just how complex our bodies are and stuff. I mean, there must be a reason that God made us to cry when we're sad, there must be a reason for it. And so anyways, but and touching a little bit more on what you said is like, it's especially true that men are made to seem like it's not okay to cry. And, I'll be the first to say that, like, I agree with that in a lot of ways. Like, as a man, you need to be kind of tough, in some ways, in some respects. But there are also times when you've been through something legitimately really sad. Losing your wife is a completely acceptable reason to need to shed tears. Watching her fall apart is a completely acceptable reason. Falling and hitting your knee at 40 years old, like, you probably shouldn't cry. You need to get up and walk it off. You know what I mean? You need to be a man about it. You know what I mean? But so there are a lot of contexts in which, like, I do believe that society needs strong men.
Yes, I agree.
And strong women for that matter, of course. But just saying, like, but that we've gotten this confused outlook that, like, just because a man is, it's considered soft if you ever see a man shed tears. And and for that very reason, I tried really hard. Well, there were multiple reasons, but I tried really hard when I gave my wife's eulogy to not break down and cry. And for one is because I wanted everybody to clearly be able to understand what I was saying, because I wanted everybody to really hear how amazing my wife was. And not that everybody didn't know, but it was important to me that I didn't, like, babble through the whole thing, or burble, or what would you call it? I don't know, when you're sobbing. But so I wanted to hold it together, but also I wanted to hold it together because there is a stigma that if you're a man, like, you don't cry in front of people. You know what I mean? You hold it together. And that is, when you have a good reason to cry, it's okay to cry. There's nothing wrong with that. And
it's so good to feel your emotions. And just this morning, I was asked to speak at this church about my classes that I'm doing and about what Widow Goals is. I even talked about the podcast. And when I went back to my seat, Joel had like tears in his eyes. And so I asked him about it later. And he was just like, I'm just so proud of you. Like, just seeing how God has healed you. I mean, this isn't really about that, but just men crying tears. And he's not afraid to feel his emotions. I just thought that was so cool that he was like not stuffing that in. And just the fact that I have somebody who's like that proud of me, That doesn't even go with
that's
this. I just
amazing.
wanted to mention it because
No, that's
I love.
awesome. It was a good segue.
Yeah, he's an amazing husband. So
He's a good example,
I have to say
of
that.
what
Okay,
it,
side
because
note.
also because he is very much a manly man in other ways too, though,
Yeah.
but he's in touch with his emotions. And I think that is what a healthy man should look like,
Mm-hmm. And side
But what
note,
were you gonna say? What was your side
it's
to the side
been
note?
really weird. Okay, a couple kind of grief, just different things like being married, but I was married. Like the moment we came home and I'm sitting and I'm looking at the pictures I have of Luke everywhere, it felt weird. Like it felt different than ever. Like, whoa, I was married, now I'm married again. It was just this weird feeling. And then when talking about, like I was talking to this lady I'd never met the other day on the phone, she's helping me promote my stuff. And I had to say late husband for Luke and husband for Joel. It was just like, whoa, I have to like, I used to just say husband, talking about
Yeah,
Luke.
right.
Like you
Yeah.
say wife about Lacey, but then when you get married
Yeah.
again, you kind of have to change the verbiage because you have two different ones. So I'm like, my late husband, this, and then my husband, just an interesting thing I hadn't really thought about is,
No, that is interesting. And but like I said I think maybe the last episode we did together, I don't think widow is a title. I think it's an experience. That's just my opinion.
yeah,
And so I think you did not lose your widow status, and
right.
legally, yes, you're married now. You can't put
Yes.
widowed on an application anymore. But like, as far as like, did you lose your right to talk to the widowed community? Of course not. You're still a
No,
widow.
I know.
And
It was
like, we will forever be a widow and widower. Like,
right.
just because we might get remarried again and all that, or you did get remarried, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You don't lose that experience that you've been through.
Yes, I was with Jess, one of my, and Stacy, who's been a guest. We were talking like 2 nights ago, and she's like really passionate. She's like, you do not lose what a badge you've been through, or something. Like she's like, you're still a widow. And then we're planning this widow's tea and stuff. And I was like, so I still get to come? Like, I'm not a widow, but I can still, I mean, I'm running the whole thing, obviously I'm coming. And I wrote on one of my social medias, I wrote remarried widow. Like I still have that. And then on one of my social medias, I'm just trying to figure out what I want to write. I wrote Luke's widow, Joel's wife. And so I'm just trying to figure out like, who am I now? Like, but I
go back and listen to our episode. Who am I now?
I know. I think that, yeah, we have an episode, Who Am I Now? But it is, I was telling you this before we started this, it is a little bit weird, not the same weird as when your spouse dies, but it is a little strange. Like I was a widow for almost 3 years. Like that was part of who I was. And I'm not a widow anymore, but I still consider myself a widow. But I'm married again. So I'm like, will people still be able to relate to me? Because I'm not going home to the same reality as them. I'm not going home alone like I used to. Will people still feel like they can relate to me? But I feel like they will because I've been through it.
Well, of course. And I have a comparison that is, not the proudest thing I like to talk about or admit, but it's a great example. As I may or may not have said on here before, I don't know, this might be a shock to some of you, but I used to be a drug addict a long time ago. And so can I still relate? Can I still go out and, what I say, evangelize to somebody who's currently a drug addict? Can I still speak from experience about why they should turn their life around and how valuable and like, look what can happen from your life if you get off of that garbage? Like, yeah, just because I haven't been on drugs in 25 years, it doesn't mean that I can't still relate to what they're going through. That's a great way to. And I'm far away from that. I'm very far away from that. But I still understand that mindset, and what it feels like to need something that your body isn't supposed to have. I still understand that. And so I will never lose that experience that I can talk to somebody as somebody different. Because, and it was kind of like what I've explained before when I went through counseling for a while, really nice guy, but he was never widowed. And I just felt like, dude, you don't understand. You've read it from a book, but you don't know what it feels like to go through what I've been through. Exactly. Why am I going to pay you when I'm like teaching you like what it feels like? And so there is that. There's you can listen to somebody from authority, like a counselor, or you can listen to somebody with experience. I would always rather listen to somebody with experience that understands what I've been through, And so, no, you're never going to lose that title. And yes, you're remarried. That's great. Anybody who's a decent human being would be really, really happy for you.
Yeah.
Or unless they're personally, you know what I mean, involved in
Yeah.
it somehow, a family member that it's difficult for. I don't mean that. I
Yeah.
just mean anybody from the outside looking in. If somebody's going to be jealous or upset because you got married again, that's not something for you to worry about.
Right.
That should just be, so everybody should be happy for you, and it doesn't take away your status of being widowed and going through hell. Like, unless it was going to somehow erase all of that,
Yeah.
you know, then you still have that title and forever will. So,
Yes.
Yeah.
So that was a little tangent, but I wanted to go back to this and talk about, okay, so it's a myth to grieve alone. So how do you not grieve alone? So I feel like for myself, I mean, we've talked about these things before, but it was getting involved in a widow community early on. That's, like we met in a Facebook group, getting to meet other people. That helped me not grieve alone. Continuing to see friends, even when it was hard in the beginning, like they can't relate, but continuing to push through and hang out with people, being involved in church, having things to look forward to that involved other people. Like I had a goal every week in the beginning to go out to lunch with at least one friend, or go on a walk, or do something. So those are some of the things that I did to not grieve alone, made it like a point to get out of the house. Now, it was 2020, it was a little harder then, but still trying to find ways to get out. It's easier now than it was then. How are some, I know that you did grieve alone some, but I know that you did and do have a lot of friends and support. So how did you not grieve alone? What did you do?
So, for one thing, also, you are quite extroverted.
Yeah.
I am more of an introvert extrovert. So if I'm in a situation, I can totally be an extrovert. I can talk.
Yeah.
I have no problem being in front of people. If I'm by myself, I want to remain by myself. It's just weird. I don't know how to explain it. I'm very comfortable by myself. So that was also a problem for me, is that I had to step outside of my comfort zone.
Oh, true. Yeah.
To pursue help, if you will. And so there were some nights where just, it basically comes down to, like, thankfully I had good friends.
Yeah.
I had, my friend Tamara would ask, how are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm good. This, that, whatever. She's like, no, seriously.
Right.
Like, how are you doing?
Yeah.
And I just like, I'm not doing good, that just like let the tears flow. And, but or my friends, Brian and John, like I just texted them one night and said, hey man, I'm sorry to bother you guys. This is what I needed to say for my own comfort. I'm really sorry to bother you guys. Is there any way you guys could call me sometime tonight? Maybe one of you could like pray for me over the phone. And the response it was a multi-text to Brian and John. And within a minute, Brian and John both replied, I'm on my way, bro. Brian said, me too.
Nice. Yeah.
And they were over at my house and they prayed with me and they hung out for hours. And then they'd invite me to dinner. And so I had friends that were reaching out to me, which really helped a lot. And but there were times where it was hard and I just dealt with it alone. But fortunately, I had my mother-in-law, which was a very unique situation. We could talk about it because not only were we both grieving, but we were grieving the same person.
Right.
And so that helped a lot. But like you said, probably the best thing I found to help was joining Facebook groups.
Yeah.
And reading and knowing that other people were going through it too really helped me a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I'd talked to a few people privately from that group. This dude, he's actually an author. And I've seen that he's kind of blown up since then, which is really cool. His name's John Polo.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't read his book, honestly, I have to confess, but it was really nice. He reached out to me and asked me for my address and he sent me a copy of his book. But you find people in these groups that they post a story and you're like, whoa, that's very similar to what I went through. And you say, wow, I went through the same thing. And the next thing you know, you're private messaging back and forth. You're talking to somebody who really understands. So I'd say Facebook groups for me as an introvert were very, very helpful. And good friends like asking me. My friend Chris Keeler would just randomly call me and even when I would not pick up his call because I didn't want to, I was sad. I was in a sad moment or whatever. And he'd just like come knocking at the door or whatever, it might have been, or he'd text me and say, hey, I know you probably don't want to talk, buddy, but I just want you to know I'm praying for you. And I'm here if you want to talk. I have the whole night free or whatever he'd say that just would make me feel comfortable. So, fortunately it was good friends, but my advice would be to not hesitate to reach out to people. And I think it's really important to not grieve alone because it adds to the grief for me. It added to the grief. It was like, I was sad. I was grieving. I was missing Lacey. And then I'd think about how alone I was and how quiet I was and how quiet my house was. And it just made it worse. It made the reality of her being gone just so much more intense. It sucked. It was it was the darkest, worst season of my life. And I've been through some pretty dark seasons of life, and but everything pales in comparison. I just want to sing some Sinead O'Connor, Nothing Compares.
Nothing compares.
Oh, that was good. But anyways, so that would be my 2 cents on that.
Good. It's good 2 cents.
Good. Thanks.
Good. I think we're good on this subject. What do you think? Anything else to add?
No, I think that's good.
I think we can wrap it on up if you want to. Do you want to close?
Sure. Yeah. Well, first of all, we're very happy that you're back. I'm sorry for all the listeners for having to put up with 30 minutes of my great thoughts. But no, we're so happy for you. Thank you. I know there's so many people so happy for you. Tina and I are just thrilled. And it was so encouraging to us to see it come to fruition, to see that like, hey, you go through this long distance relationship, right? But like there is an end. There is an end, and it comes, you guys join together, and it's such a beautiful blessing gift from God. So congratulations.
Thank you.
From all of us, the whole community. I know there's so many people so happy for you guys. And I will go ahead and pray. Lord, I just like to just thank you so much for bringing Michelle and Joel together, and just letting us witness the beauty of your promises. And Lord, I just pray that we would all primarily, just our main focus would be keeping our eyes on you, as you are the one that will help us get through these seasons of life where it's dark and miserable, and remind us that you never promised us that this life would be easy. Remind us that every single time when we have grief, that you promised that it would never be, you never promised it would be easy, but you promised you'd be there with us. And we thank you for that. We thank you for fulfilling your promises. Even when we don't feel your presence, we know you're there, because that's what your word says. And Lord, I'd like to pray for anybody who's going through grief alone, that you would give them either the courage to reach out, that you would make connections through Facebook groups, or that you would impress it upon their friends' hearts to reach out to them and let them know that their friend needs them. And I just like to pray for strength and wisdom for everybody in this community who's listening, and that you would just provide them the ability to get through another day. I know this walk is so difficult for so many, Lord, and my heart just goes out to them as we know what it's like. But I pray, Lord, that you would just give them a glimmer, just a beacon of hope, or a whole ray of sunshine of hope, that this is a season of life that they're in. And I pray that you'd help them get through this season. And it's in Jesus' name that we pray to you always, Father. Amen.
Amen. If you like this podcast, give it a little bing,
5 stars
on Apple Podcasts. And now you can rate it on Spotify, I found out.
Oh, yeah. Fancy.
Anywhere you listen. What else? If you want to be a guest, you can email us widowtoosoon@gmail.com. Reach out on Messenger on Facebook, our Facebook group, our Instagram.
All the places. You make them sound so exciting. On whatever Instagram,
whatever you want to do. And total side note, I just wanted to share that it was so cool at my wedding that I had 10 bridesmaids, and 5 of them were in my first wedding. And it was so cool for them to see. And of course, these people were at Luke's celebration of life and everything, but just to really experience life with me. And then like everybody, so the newer friends and the older friends, everybody met, and everybody was like, you have the most amazing friends. And I just feel so blessed. And they were part of my not grieving alone. Reach out to people. they want to be there for you. Sometimes they don't know what to say. And so we just have to help remind them, and just make it normal to talk about grief. Anyways, that was total side note, but I felt very blessed to have so many people from my first wedding in my second wedding. And don't grieve alone. Word. Oh, Jinx, you owe me a soda.
Oh, Jinx. Oh, wait, what did you say? Jinx, it's pinch poke, you owe me a Coke.
No, it's something, you owe me a soda. That's what my kids say. Anyways, but because we both said word at the same time. Oh, funny. I was laughing so hard on one of your podcasts. You were like, mark out. And I was literally talking to you as you're doing the podcast. Like, you can hear me when I was like, silence your phone, dude. Like, I literally said that in my car, like those exact words.
I have a reputation for being a thug. That's what Tina likes about me. I'm actually going to get a teardrop tattoo under my eye.
Oh my gosh.
So,
Okay.
Mark out just went along with that.
Side note. So when we did my bachelorette party, we're all like riding in the car together. So it's all of me and like my friends that are like, 29 or something. And then Haley, and we're listening to old school songs from back in the day. And we got Gangster's Paradise going. And I'm like totally rapping Fool. And I'm like, and she is just like, what is happening? Like all of us in the car all of a sudden turned into gangsters. And we were like, what's up? It's 97.
West Side?
Yeah. And we were all in the car and we have videos of it. And she's just like, what? Because she had no idea. She didn't know the song. And we're all of a sudden, as I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, she's like, what? It was pretty fun to introduce her to some of our old school music.
I could just visualize that. She's like, I'm in the wrong place.
Yeah. And side note, because I never got to talk about it, we did like a dinner thing and then we went line dancing, of course. So there was probably, I think 18 people went to my bachelorette party and went line dancing. It was so fun. And I had a cowboy hat with a veil that said bride on the front. And then I got them all these sashes that said bride tribe. And I had the bride one. And it was my bride tribe. Yeah. And it was just so much fun, just celebrating like with these people who have mourned with me, who now are celebrating. And I think that's just the most beautiful thing. And so you've got these people in your corner, don't grieve alone. Like they mourn with you and they're going to celebrate with you too, as God continues to heal your broken heart. And he turns ashes into beauty. I almost said it backwards. And he will make dancing out of mourning into dancing.
He's going to turn all your beauty into ashes. It's going to be great.
But you know what I'm saying. At least I said it in church today. You're
dancing into mourning. It's going to be wonderful.
But I said it correctly at church. I'm glad I didn't say it backwards. But anywho, that's enough side notes to the side notes. Thanks for listening.
Yes, thank you. God bless.
See y'all next time. Bye.
Bye.